Today I want to talk about the architecture, but thinking about this discipline from the unhabitability, from the concept of how people can inhabit the places, inhabit the planet. I say always that, like the doctors works with healthy, the architects works with unhabitability. For me, is the most important because if not, it's not architecture. It's not possible to inhabit. In this sense, the title "Topographies in Time: The Experience of Architecture" talks about the topography during the process of the designer or the people that thinks about the process of the architecture thinking, but at the end, all this process is for the people that inhabit these places, and has his own experience. The designer is a subject, and the people that after inhabit the places is another subject, and then you need to design to think the inhabitability of the sites of the planet with different constants that every subject can appropriate. You need to work thinking with this. For me, is so important. In this sense, I want to begin with this image, where for me is a lesson of architecture, because you think this fisherman that builds this shelter, working with the same material that is in the place. The rock is the quarry of this little shelter. You take the material from this rock, use the same rock for protect from the north wind that you have behind, works with the rock that gives thermal inertia, hot in winter and cold temperature in summer. Works with the cross ventilation with this little window, and the little window that is in the north part with Venturi effect and with the principal door, and opens the principal activity to the south, where is the sun, and then works with the geography in this remain with this beach. For me, this inhabit a place 100% perfectly. Is a lesson of architecture, but there's no architect. This is another condition so different. People that builds this little agricola site, builds the building, but builds or plant these two trees, these two wood structures with two pillars, principal pillars, the branches as a secondary structure, and the finishing material that is the leaves, intelligent leaves, because disappears in winter and appears in summer when you need shadow. Another lecture of what is architecture for me, and in this case, working another condition that is the limit between the parts. This intermediate space between the wood structure and the building is the most important part of this project, of this situation. Is where you stay better in winter and in summer. And behind the building, there is the north west wind that is Mestral in Tarragona, that is the principal wind. And in the other case is Tramontana, that is in Cabo Creus, near Cadaqués, in north of Catalonia, that is the principal wind, north and here northwest. And the orientation of the first shelter and this building is with the wind in the back, and the sun in the frontal part. But all this, I think, that appears because these people has a necessity, has a minimum conditions, minimum resources for inhabit, and then they think with this common sense. And the necessity, for me, explains this third example of architecture, when these men built this thermal carpet, of maybe 1.5 or 2 square meters, in the floor using the shadow of this signal. No? And then this is another architecture that this man built in this site for inhabit the place in extreme conditions. Okay, but normally in the contemporary situations, this common sense disappears, and disappears in actions that the society says that is architecture. Okay, if we talk about something so easy as the shadow, something basic in architecture, we can see examples like this. No, when in this case somebody designs this element with one function that this man needs to stay here a lot of hours, seeing the people that is swimming, but for I don't know the reason, maybe for the moment or the something that is near the endogamic movements of the architecture, or more academic architecture, maybe this pillar is not in vertical position and makes this movement. And then the vertical sun in summer, it burns the legs of this man. If the pillar is vertical, this element will be here, and then the sun, it doesn't burn. And then this man needs to rectify this wrong decision of the design, I think. No? And then he needs to put this element for protect the legs, and then the totally shadow that is in the beach, put the chair when he's going to the beach to rest, and it builds another shadow. No? And then he needs to correct these wrong inhabitability decisions. No? Or maybe this image is in the campus of my university, no? Where you see these furnitures, these tables to eat in summer in the exterior space. That is an expensive design with continuous elements, etc., etc., etc. But the trees are in the north part, and you don't have shadow in summer, and it's not possible to eat here because it's hot. Okay, and then people, I think that normally they don't think with a vegetal material as a material of architecture. They think that is one material that is behind the architecture, no? Something that is beautiful and is not in the process of inhabitability. No? But the other people that has real necessities, they know how you work with the trees when you need shadows, etc., etc., etc. But then at the end, people, if the design of the public space is wrong, at the end they find the mechanism to conquer these situations. Okay, this is one reflection to begin the lecture, no? And then now I'm going to talk about 5 exercises, I think, that I do the process and the materialization in one part of this site. No, the site is the planet. The planet has has different conditions that works with the 4 natural elements: air, earth, wind, and fire. The sun works with a closed cycle in the biosphere with these elements. We try to work closing material cycles, and we work in one specific site of this big place that is the planet. No? But another element for me important is the relation of the human scale with this support of an habitability that is the planet. No? And the relation in time is this, no? That the origin of the Earth is a long, long time ago, 4,500 millions of years. The early hominids only 4 million years around. No, the vegetal elements photosynthesis cycle 3,200 million years. And from Neolithic, I think that we work with agriculture system, no? That people close natural cycles, close the cycles of the materials, etc., etc. But only 250, 280 years ago, with the Industrial Revolution, we changed this relation with the site, with the planet, and make a parallel attitude. And now we are where we are, working the excedent of materials and of the industrial or post-industrial society, and all the problems that we have with this. No? And then the human scale in the relation with this site, for me, is important, this reflection too. No? Now I'm beginning to work different exercises that works materiality in materiality conditions with the topography, with minimum resources, and I begin with one exercise in this site. This is the east coast in the Iberian Peninsula. No, here this littoral coast. Here is Barcelona. This is the littoral mountains, the pre-littoral mountains. It's a big wall of 1,000, around 1,000, 1,200 meters. And here in the backside, there is a plain of Lleida city, a big plain that is the Lleida region, no? And in this side that you don't have the influence of the Mediterranean temperature and Mediterranean climate situations, you change the Mediterranean climate to continental climate. No? And here, the Roman people, when arrived from Italy, in Via Herculia and after Via Augusta, and in the second Romanization, one of the sites that they state is Yeso, in actually is Gisona city. No? And Gisona is in this part. Here is Ilerda, Roman Ilerda, in the actuality Lleida. No? And Gisona is in this part with agricola system where they work with wheat and different elements. You see all the agricola work with these different plots, no? And here you see the actual city and the Roman city in the red geometry, that is 20 hectares, no? Here is the medieval Gisona, but the Roman city, it was this one, no? And in the north part, now the north is here, now we change and the north is in this part, we have 12,000 square meters of this archaeological site. That is the north door of the city with the ancient Cardo Maximo here, no? And this is the situation that we find in 208 when they talk about the problem that they has with water, no? Well, with the rainwater. The rainwater, it rains and all the water it goes in the parts excavated. Here we have 60 meters of this muralla, the tower, the door, north door with Cardo Maximo here, the Roman terms and the natatio, and different big domus, Roman domus, no, with the intervallum in this part, no. They want that with minimum resources, with feather money, no, from European resources, we try to put the water outside the archaeological site, and if we can put in value this archaeological site, no. The Romans works with this attitude, a Cartesian attitude with different parameters for to look in the future the city that they want to build. No, with the same parameters but with different instruments, the archaeological people builds another reality, because taking the material, they find this new site that is not the Roman city. It's an archaeological site with the matter that exists of this city, but not all the city, no? And they works principally with the earth, because they take this material, put outside of the archaeological site, no, and as store sites, no, and then we work with the same material, and the decision, it was not to put the water outside, because if we do a canalization, we need to do an inclination with these canalizations, and under the earth we have the rest of the archaeological rest, and we decide to work with lamination surfaces, no, like rice fields, no, and then with this earth we build different taludes, compacted, no, and then when it rains, the water it goes in this side, and during the next days after the rain, the earth filters this water, protecting the rest that it's not excavated, and protected of this external water, the actual archaeological site, and the inundability, it's protected of this fact, no? And this easy movement to move the earth another time from the archaeological movements will return in the interior, but with this geometry, and after compact with this technique, no, with 10 slices of 10 centimeters, 5 slices of 10 centimeters, 50 centimeters, with the same attitude than the other people, no? This is the builder or agricola man, and work with this technique, working these new fields, but has that offers these conditions, that protects to the rain, that it builds during the time builds, the time not destroyed. The time is a process that in the first summer, some rains make this first movement, after in the autumn, after with the cold in winter appears this kind of lichens, and after you cook all the plate, no, in this case, and the time, like in the kitchen, no, you use for to build, and this is part of the process, no. But this geometry that we work like this is the geometry of the ancient Roman city, no. We put the inclinated planes and the taludes in the position that you build the cardo maximo, cardo minor, intervallum, and the different insulas that you have under this earth with the actus, and we offer one system that in the future archaeological campaigns, people has one system to continue their work, no, the archaeological work, okay? Then they need to protect the natatio and the Roman terms. Where it was the building, we work with this ceiling with brown, painted in brown, with this dark atmosphere in the interior of the building, but in the external natatio we work with white color, and we work with this another atmosphere to protect the natatio ruins, no? The tower, we work with only the perimeter of the height that has the ancient muralla, and from this situation with minimum resources we put in value with this action, and offering a new system for the future interarchaeologists people, no? This is the budget, this is the surface, and in the limit of the north part, we work with similar instruments that all the lands that are worked around with agricola system, but with archaeological program. From Yeso, we go to the coast, behind the littoral mountains in this point that is near Barcelona city, that is here. This is Besòs River, and 15 kilometers in this point arrive Congost River and Mogen River, and here it burns Besòs River. No? In this point, there is these 3 mountains, 1, 2, and 3, no? With this contemporary situation. Here we have the Montmeló village, Montornès village, the center, the origin of this village in these points, the industrial systems with these warehouses here and here, with the pressure that put to this protected area, the first geography with these 2 rivers and the origin of Besòs River that after go to the sea, big infrastructures like the highway that has similar direction than Via Augusta, the AVE, the train, the high velocity train in this point, Agricola system too, and big infrastructures like this one that is the Formula 1 circuit of Montmeló, okay, that is the same scale that all the village. No? In this contemporary or metropolitan situation, where the interesting is the contact between the different fragments, no, we have this point where we work understanding all these different topographies, no, the natural topographies and the anthropization of human people. In this site, in this south part, we have this element that it was 70 meters more higher than the rivers, this archaeological site in 2008, that was the plain of a Roman palace where it was an important politic or military man that it comes from Rome to control the execution of Via Augusta. No? This it was 100 years before Barquino, before Barcelona, and 100 years after people of this site goes to the city, and this is only a temporary situation. No? But he lives here with their family or their people, protected with maybe soldiers or people that works for him. This is the first protection, fortification. This is the second one with the house, the domus, with an impluvium here, a patio de armas, 1 tower, 2 tower, 3 towers, 1 cistern, and the big cistern tank in the other level. Okay, this is the section of the generic section of the Roman condition. After the abandonment of Roman construction during centuries, no, and disappears, and after the archaeologist rebuilds a new condition, a new situation, discover the ruins, discover different elements of these rooms, and working with these elements, in this case not only earth, rocks too, Licorella stones, appears this new reality. And here they need that we put in value with a contemporary program and a site that people can visit and put in value the restored remains and understand what it was. But I think that trying not rebuild the ancient condition, no? Putting in value the matter the real Roman walls. No? In this case, we reuse the same material that the archaeologist put exterior. We reuse material of one ancient Roman quarry that is 100 meters near, and we built the back part of the Roman walls with a new system that builds these horizontal planes that where it was the Roman people walk. This, the archaeologists people says us this different reference, no? And only we try to put the matter in the rooms, in the Roman rooms, researching the ancient level of this Roman plane, and with this vertical plane, we offer a plane because the real protagonist of the situation that is Roman stones project, no, and you can put in value and see the different lines that these corners offers you and rebuild the Roman geometry, but not the Roman matter. Okay. For to do this, we work with dry system. Working only with these two materials, the stone of the mountain and the steel of the industrial polygon. Okay, this is the movement that we do. We put the matter into the rooms and we put in value the air that is in the walls. Okay, the walls that it doesn't exist, but the air that explains the ancient dimension of the walls. This is the system, 15 centimeters separated to the Roman stones, working these lines, the entry, the patio de armas, we put an almond tree, etc. The first indications from the archaeologists for to explain the different lines that we need to build, the system of traction and compression of the different walls, and this is all the cycle of the process from the Roman people to the restored remains. And this is the Roman walls that in the 2,000 years ago arrives to this level, no? And this is the level where the Romans it walks, but now we offer this condition, putting in value this air that actually doesn't exist, but exists the foundations or the first stones in the first meters of this rest. Okay. During the construction, we live with the archaeologist. Here is the first weeks of construction of the DOMUS, of the putting in value these principal walls of the DOMUS. Is a fantastic moment that we work as a team, no? And then we contain with this structural system, but after we put a thin curtain with more thinnest rear bars. This is 10 millimeters, this is 6 millimeters, this is 15 centimeters, this is 3 centimeters, because if not, the two licorellas, 2,000 years ago licorella and actual licorella, that is from the ancient Roman quarry, is the same process of oxidation. And then it seems the same stone, but it's 2,000 years of difference. No? And then we need this thin curtain using the tangential vision of the steel or the frontal vision, no? And then to put in value the Roman stones, no? And put this curtain in the time that separates two elements, no? The other decision is how we build the limit between the different planes. No, in the more elevated planes, we work only with two lines. One line to 45 centimeters for the children, another 90 centimeters for the people, the adult people. We work this elastic limit working with this same system of the construction system for the rigidation, the geometry of the corners, and these two lines with this solipation, okay? And with this, we work this kind of limit that is not a veranda, it's one limit, but one limit that, in analogy, I think that exists in another programs that remember this condition like this one, no? Elastic ropes, no? Elastic limit that you can put a lot of kilograms in this limit, and the condition of to protect that people don't fall down. But in this case are ropes of steel, okay? But in the more higher parts, we want to do something not heaviest, because we want to put the protagonism in the walls, no? And when you discover this horizon, only put, this is the worst light, because it's in the afternoon and you see the black lines, but during the day these lines disappears in the horizon, no? But something minimum. But as you see in the other part, the limit that we work here in the parts more in the external muralla, in the more external part, and more not in the top of the mountain, we work with the same structural system that we put as a veranda, because there are the parts and maybe the difference of level is 2 meters or 2 meters 20, okay? And this is the ancient Roman quarry that we reactivate. The last activation, it was in 17th century, and we reactivate, and after, when we finish with this new material that we need to find, we put earth, and actually the vegetation, the local vegetation activates the new place. No, we find the material here. We built this filter, and after, when the stones arrives to the quarry, with this we built all the carpet, all the pavement of this 2,500 square meters situation. No, the archaeologist wants graves of colors. Orange, white, etc. But for me, it was an external element that superimposed in the site. No, and at the end, they understand that it's better to work with these two kind of stones, more thinnest for the parts where you need to walk, more biggest in the parts where people don't walk. No? Okay. And then we built this plane, all this surface, and the project has all these conditions. No, with all this budget, we need to put in value this element, but we need to build an information point, and maybe I propose to build different pavilions, because these mountains is a cultural site protected as a natural site and archaeological site, no? And there arrives people, guys with the schools to study the flora and fauna, to study the archaeology, people in the weekend, etc. No, and then we offer 5 pavilions with the same budget. The first one, the principal, is this one. That is this element that with this material that we take, we put in the perimeter to build the structural elements. with the same material, we work this terrace, okay? And then we put one concrete roof that arrives here, no? This is the movement, and we work with the topography. This is the pavilion, interior pavilion, external in the terrace, winter pavilion with the sun in the roof, with these trees, another pavilion with these oak trees, taking this material and putting here and building this circular horizontal plane is the third one, protecting this tree and this tree. This is the pavilion of oak trees. This is the roof pavilion. After we see how the time it builds this place. This is from where you arrive, from the ancient Little River. The entry, the same earth, the granitic earth entry in the interior. You can open all the protected element and the glasses, a little box to have a storehouse for the archaeologists, and the bathroom. Here you have a screen normally if you want to explain something, temporary exhibitions, etc. External bench, seeing to the first sun in the morning. And actually the winter pavilion is like this, with these spontaneous new elements. Here is another pavilion with another oaks into the forest. This is the pines, this is the oaks into the forest. There is a big pine with the shadow and builds this part. And after we see this element into the forest. This is the pine and this carpet that you have shadow, you have sun, etc. in different moments of the day and of the year. And in the interior of the forest, we built this archaeological site for the children, discover and make the first situation, working with the shadow of these oak trees and this bench for the parents, etc. Okay, and after another important element that is this pre-existent forest that we design one element that works like this. Working with the time that is 1-2 minutes that you stay from this part to this part, entry to the forest, change your connection with this element, and in this movement working with the inclinated plane and this long way, arriving to the top, and in this point discover the archaeological site. Okay. The new almond tree, the entry, the horizon, contemporary horizon. The tangential vision disappears the stone, or here is the enough curtain to put in value all these elements. Like in one theater, this is the actor and this is the vertical plane. These two roofs to protect one wall of earth, Roman earth that is under this roof, and here the big cistern tank. Never these two planes are higher than the last one, no? Always under this horizon. This is the big cistern tank that we can enter with this opus signinum pavement. The tower as a reference of the site. You can enter to this room previous to the tower, and after you can enter into the air volume of the tower, okay, and have this experience in this little balcony, and two big balconies that you see the contemporary situation in the limit between the natural condition of the mountain and industrial condition as a contemporary landscape, okay, and the different platforms that you can recognize from the village. And this contemporary situation in the contact between the fragments as a contemporary landscape. And this is the transformation with this minimum intervention, with this European budget, federal money. And the third one is the first intervention that I do 16 years ago, 15 years ago, in the other part of this mountain, no? In Vilassar de Dalt, La Fornaca. This is before Christ, and this is after, when Barquino exists. And in this point, there is a Roman industry of ceramic dolias, ceramic roofs, etc. No? This is Cantacó, and this is in Vilassar de Dalt, La Fornaca. We work in this site that during last 50 years it transforms as new topographies, contemporary situations that now we're going to see. But in this image we see the quarry, the granitic quarry in this case, from where we take the material to work here. It's 15 kilometers. Okay. This is in 1965 that you have the sea in this part, okay? The littoral mountain with the first urbanizations, only the streets in this moment. The fishermen village here, but in this part they work these lands with the water that offer this topography of this mountain. And these are the lands. After 10 years after appears the highway of the coast, and the urbanization has more houses of second residence normally in the coast. After in 90s they transform the lands as invernaderos. I don't know in English. These with plastic microclimates for the flowers. You know, okay. Is all these roofs. And in this century, it begins to transform the lands and the invernaderos in industrial polygons, industrial warehouses, because they obtain more money in the townhouse. Okay, and in this point, this is Vilassar de Dalt. This is one topography with this mountain that basically, and here you have this vaguada and the other with the village, and here the site it calls La Fornaca, from Roman moments, no? La Fornaca, forn in Catalan is oven, no? Roman ovens, okay? And in this site, they find in this part, this is the industrial polygon, this is the movements, and in this part, they find these 3 combustion chambers in this side that it was a vertedero, no? That they put a lot of materials on all kind of contemporary excellent, no? And in this part, this is the archaeological site, they find these oven chambers of combustion of 3 Roman ovens, no? Of ceramic. This is the chamber of combustion. One is not destroyed. This is like a section that you see, and the third one is like an igloo. Here you see the wall that they built, the site where they put the tiles and dolias, etc. Okay, and here from one hole they put the wood, the fire, 800 grades, and after this temperature cook the ceramic elements. Okay, in the interior here with this pillar and these different holes, you have this light, and you see the movement with this spiral from the east entry in dominant wind from Levante, no, from the east part entry the wind, and after make this combustion and this movement going to these different holes. Okay, and the 800 grades temperature transforms the clay in one semi-beauty stone that is serpentina. This new stone, like a jewel, the name is serpentina, is a green and brown color after you see. And actually we see this fantastic space, no? It's the most big chamber that we have in Eurasia with these conditions. This is different wells of material, no? Silos, where they discover Roman material that they rebuilt in the museum, okay? But the site, they want a museum, no? They want a museum to show the combustion chambers of the ovens, no? And they give me in 2002 this drawing, no? The people of the town hall, people of Generalitat, the Catalan government, with this contemporary facade with glass, with this structural element that you see from exterior, these jewels. You can enter to work the topography with steps, to visit and go, no? I try to convince, and at the end they built this option to build only a geological stratum, no? A wall that you need to cross and discover in the other part, in the other side, crossing this limit, a new spatial and time conditions, okay? In the top there is one park that they were building that has horizontal plant, but with this movement that we put the wall seeing the east orientation, that is from it comes the principal wind, Levante wind. In this direction you open the park with this square in the top, okay? And there you see 3 holes that illuminate with natural light the 3 combustion chambers. After we built this wall with dry system and discover this new space. This is the park. Here is when you enter, we change the section of the park in plant, discover this new square, and with 300% only of inclination, you walk in this direction and discover the horizon of the Mediterranean Sea, okay? At the end, this new site, I don't know if the name is one building or not, it's a new topography. The clay topography, entry as a natural topography with the 3 ovens. You have a lot of thermal inertia. Always here you have 19 grades of temperature. And after, at the end, you have one public space in the top and one public space that you can visit under this site. The new polygon, the park, the houses that these people pay a lot of money to see this sea horizon, and then has this airbag of this park and the industrial polygon, warehouses. And after the square and this ramp that they built, I change only the inclination of this point to see the from this corner the stratum. You can arrive and to visit this site, okay? In the entry, you work with another chamber. We have the 3 interior chambers. Here you have a contemporary chamber of 3 per 3 per 3 meters that you enter, you disconnect in a black box, and after touching the curtains, you can enter and discover this site. We maintain 2 lines as a holes in the facade to enter the east wind, the wind in the rising sun, and then you have always this ventilation with the geometry of the wall and the orientation of the facade with the wind. No? In the exterior, we activate the reflection with inox inox with brilliant and like mirror effect. And in this conscience, we activate and accelerate the timing of the people, and then with this intermediate space that is this chamber offers the descompression and entering in one new space with a new scale, and the scale of the time don't stop, because it's not possible to stop, but it's more slow. Okay. And then we work with different dimensions in this limit, and we work this situation, working with the light, the smell of the earth, and the temperature, this 19 grades temperature all the year, and the good acoustic condition from the materials and the geometry. They reuse as an events in summer, do concerts, etc. No? And then the project has two dimensions. This intra-utero condition of the chamber, and the opposite scale of the infinite scale of the horizon of the Mediterranean Sea. Okay. On this diedric drawing, only have the horizontal plane excavation and vertical plane excavation. Taking this earth, we built this space for these elements. Horizon, stratum, wall, and cave. No? These 3 points of the principal decisions of this project. The reflection we activate, and after we enter in this space. And the fourth one is more in the south. Is one process of last 5 years, from 2013 to this May. Last May is the inauguration of the first phase. Is in Tarragona, in Roman Tarraco, important city, the most important city in this coast, Roman city. Emporion is Greek city in 4th century before Christ, after Roman. On this point, it was the more first important Roman sites. After Barkino, Yeso as a city for the soldiers that is going the second Romanization, near Ilerda and Caesar Augusta, Zaragoza, etc. But now we continue the Via Augusta, and in this point that turns going to interior to Caesar Augusta, Ilerda, Caesar Augusta. In this point, we have this Roman Tarraco. This point is this point, no? This is the defensive wall, Republican defensive wall, that when they break, they build and they open to the Roman port, they situate here the Roman theater. Okay, and use the program of the different the cavea, no, and the first, second, and third part of the cavea. They use the first and second as a contention wall. For this, you see these lines, no. This is one platform for Augusto Palace, no. Second platform for the city with the forum here, and in this level is the part of the port, the Roman port, and here you have the theater and the Nympheo gardens here. Okay, this is the contemporary Tarragona. with different archaeological sites that you can find here. In exterior of the defensive wall, you have the Coliseo, the amphitheater. And actually, you have a big urban void of 6,000 square meters here. And you have here one Tarragona that people doesn't know. People normally visits this part and this part. But here, the continuity in the city, it breaks. And then with this project that at the end is a public space project, not only to put in value the Roman ruins, we read this contemporary Cardos and Decumanus. August part with the actual town hall and this square in the north, this square near the actual port in the south, the important door in the city as the train station in the east, and the ancient necropolis with the new cultural element that is Tabacalera in the west part. And in the crossing point, this condition that if we activate this site as a public space, maybe we can activate this platform of the port. In the city, there are different cultural associations that it works with the theater and this kind of events that maybe they can work in this site too. This is the plant of the theater, and the Ninfeo is here under these warehouses. Here are the actual housing, and this Convento de los Capuchinos. You see that into the site have 1 and 2 areas of the cavea. The third one is in the exterior. And actually you have only these stones of the first part of the cavea. This is the theater and the Ninfeo. This is the first ideas in 2013 to activate as a descriptive geometry exercise to activate the lines that generates the form, the Roman form, because at the end, in this first phase, we want to put in a scale and in geometry these Roman stones. Okay, and then there are another intentions in second and third phase to activate this line, this hard line that actually is a wall between one public space and the other future public space, and work the limit as a pedestrian site. Okay, here. And working with this kind of sections, the conscience of the sea, the relation with the Roman stones to cross the site, and in the first phase activate this element that in these drawings you don't have now. This is the future part of the future situation of the public space, working with this limit, maybe in the corner one kind of public building, but the Roman site is the origin of this interpretation. This is drawings of 2014, I think, where we activate these elements. But the most important drawing for me is this, that here you have one new element that appears 130 years ago in end of 19th century. That is the archaeological site of Roman and Ninfeo, Roman theater and Ninfeo. Is a new reality. Is not the Roman theater. Is the archaeological site of the Roman theater. In 20s and 50s, they built 2 factories of industrial oil and work with concrete walls, that is yellow color and brown color. And in 70s, there was 2 promotions of housing in the desarrollism moment in 70s that architects and the collective of architects and archaeologists stopped in 1977. And after all this stopped during 40 years, and now in 2018, we reactivate this site, putting in value the ruins of the theater. This is another important map where you have the topography from the orchestra in 0, the street here in 1, 8 in this part, and 60 meters here. And then all this natural ramp, that is the streets, we incorporate as a public space in the next phases, working this red limit as something with intermediate spaces, etc., etc. And in the future, maybe we have this new topography, not with this abstract drawing, with these whites, etc. It's only the idea in this case, but as you see after, we combine the public space and these new programs using the ancient structures of these 4 topographies that we have in these 4 movements before end of 19th century and during the 20th century. Okay, but at the end, 5 years ago, we have this big space of 6,000 square meters with these different matters: Roman ruins, housing ruins, warehouses, factories, etc. And I take these photos 5 years ago, where you see how these different matters cohabitate. This is Roman cavea. After people of restoration, it cleans all this concrete of the industrial warehouse or industrial factory of oil. This is the natural stratum. This is the concrete of the housing. These are the shadows of the pillars of the housing that stopped 40 years ago. But for me, it's patrimonio too, because it explains the history, the recent history of last 40 years. The warehouses, these elements, the concrete, the Roman stones, etc. And the scale, it has, this is only the cavea stones that we have, other structures, and the scale with the people. And then we build these lines to put in a scale and in value these elements, these stones, and we work like the clouds of these birds that works as a collective cloud, these birds that always are moving, and you are stopped, you see how the form change. In this case is the same, but in inverse position. The theater is quiet, the lines are quiet with the scale and the geometry, and the actor or the people that arrives to the theater as an actor, a contemporary actor, or as people that go to see, combining these two kind of attitudes, you rebuild the condition, the condition of the theater with these lines that all the time are changing the density of the plane, and sometimes it's more a filter that you see the different frames in time, and sometimes with the tangential condition and circular condition are more opaque. Okay. In this first phase, we built only this part, the third sector entry in these buildings and in buildings and the street. Work with these vertical elements as micropilots that are the foundations, but we use as a pillars too. Are 2 meters 50 to 2 meters 70, and is the human scale. In this side that you have a big scale, you use this element to enter in scale the body of the people. And after this level, all this, we work only with rear bars of these different diameters from 40 millimeters to 6 millimeters. Okay. The unique site from where we can walk is the Prequintio. Okay, 4 meters and half higher in this part. And the other condition, at the end, we decide don't build this element, and we built the plane with sand of granitic sand. We built the plane of the orchestra and the entry of the senators. Okay, but this platform at the end, I decide don't put only this one from the element, and with sand we work and we build this horizontal plane. When we begin the works in the site, we find a new archaeological site that they work, and we need to change important decisions during the work, because it changed all the topography, political decisions, and we need to recalculate all the micropilots and the positions, because here is not possible to put, here yes, etc. No? These 96 micropilots that we use to work these foundations, and we use as a forest of pillars to put in scale the people. This is the first phase finished, the relation with the actual port in this new platform. In the future, you can cross this public space visiting this site. Oops, sorry. The scale, okay. At the end, all this matters that entry in harmony, combining these 4 times, and a new frame, new topography in time that put in value these stones as a contemporary situation, as a contemporary public space. You can enter to the vomitorium, Roman vomitorium, in the same space but in different time, and entry and discover this new contemporary theater with the orchestra, the senators' entry from these corridors in the same space but in another time. Put the chairs, the big chairs in this part. You can walk around the Prequintio and understand, putting this contemporary reference, the geometry and the scale, part of the scale, because it's not totally. There's no the front skenae, etc. At the moment, no, because it's not possible. There is a street, okay, but partially, like in Cantaco, partially too, you can understand and put in value this archaeological site. This is the access to the port with the water, the rainwater. It goes from these holes, and this is the canalization. And this Roman condition, seeing this front skenae, actually there is another theater with this contemporary situation, another actors, another people that is seeing, another people that is acting, etc. The arachnid element that builds all these grids. The contemporary situation with different frames, the vomitorium, the actors too. And now I explain the last exercise. That is another time in the Lerida platform in continental climate. Now we explain Yeso, Cantaco, La Fornaca, and Tarraco here. There's no the red point. These 4 red points, it was Roman time, and the yellow is Neolithic moment, no? And is a little village called Sero. I explained this exercise, And in some moments of this exercise, I put in relation with another exercises that we worked last 20 years in the studio, putting in relation with the conditions of inhabitability, okay, for to close the lecture. Yeso is agricola system in the plain, but Sero is agricola system too, but in the limit with the Pre-Pyrenees. And then is where the Pre-Pyrenees arrives and find the plain of the fields of wheat, okay? And then it happens this, different than in Yeso, that all these geometries is the result where the forest and the little mountains enter in contact with the fields. And it happens these fantastic situations with these semi-horizontal plains, the ramps, the taludes, these elements that put in contact this fantastic mesh, okay? And then Sero, it was a stone village till 19th century, and during 20th century appears this clay village with expansion of the agricola system, with warehouses, farms of pigs. Lleida is an important exporter of pigs to Europe, and combine these two typologies, these two systems of construction, from the stone to the clay. Okay. In 2007, building one water canalization for the agricola system in this national road. In this point, one machine discovered impacts with these stones. They find this site that it transforms during 6 months in an archaeological site. They take the sizes, they draw the position of this dolmen, in this case, one dolmen with one tumulus of stones. After they transport to a warehouse where we enter in contact for the first time in October 2007 with these fantastic stones that has these drawings, working stone with stone, graves. We put in relation this element with another elements that we are interested during the human history, because there's no program for this exercise. They want that we transmit these stones and all these contents of these drawings to the actual society in one site of Sero, but they don't know where, they don't know how, they don't know with how many money. They say that we do an avant project for obtain the money in further funds in Europe too, another time. And during the process, we fabricate the program, the site, and the budget. Okay. Different conditions of Karnak or pyramids, Stonehenge, impluvium, central void, zenithal light, continuity, spatial continuity, material continuity in the labyrinth, etc., etc., etc. It's conditions that we are interested for transmit these stones. This is the site that at the end we find in the entry of the village with these two ancient orchards, this oak, this ancient school that is not activated in this moment, and the principal square where they have the balance, where arrive the trucks with the pigs and with the weight packs, for to know how many heaviest are. There's the Plaza de la Báscula in this case. And from this level to this level, there's one level, 3 meters of difference. Then this difference, the first drawings in 2008 is an intuition that we think that we need ramps, we need something to activate the 2 levels. It's a promenade, it's a public space, and for the stones and the drawings, we ask if it's possible to work with one secret chamber where we need to enter. We don't know how in this moment. We ask for the conditions. If it's protected to the rain, they say yes, but it's possible that the natural air cross, the exterior part entry in form of the air, the sounds, the smell, etc. But this is the first drawings in this moment. During different months, we work with this, and at the end appears this, in this chamber, this double spiral, where at the end, this is single spiral, this is double, where you can enter from one part, arrive to the horizontal plane of the stones with zenithal light, and after, from the opposite part, you can go outside and never you cross with the people that entry. Past and future has different channels, and in the limit you arrive to this intermediate space when you offer the stones and the experience of the silence, because this is an inclinated plane, only 1%, 1.5. The other channel the same, but here you have horizontal plane. And in the inclinated planes you work with the clay as a micro stones, and you hear this sound, but when you arrive, the horizontal plane is dust of clay, like Roland Garros surface, no? That is silence, no? And you hear only your body in contact with these stones. For this is very important how we design with the time, no? The time that you, like in the forest of Cantaco, that you are walking around for to entry and from to go to another time outside. And in these 3 frames of air and the graduate light that every time is more darkness, and then when you arrive, the explosion of the zenithal light in these 8 elements. Okay. At the end, the plant is this program, no, where you enter, you have the thermal inertia of the vascular level that you are under, one level under, and then you are under the earth in this part, and you have this temperature of the air. You enter intermediate space, one room where you offer the wines of the comarca, is an original denomination for these wines, and we offer to taste these ones in this point. One polyvalent room that we use to explain the archaeological contains of this moment, these stones, etc., but as a polyvalent room where for the village can offer different activities and public activities like meetings for the people of the village, parties, video of the archaeological site or video of the soccer in Saturday, no? As is the equipment, the site for the village, because they don't have a bar, they don't have a restaurant, it's a little village only for 150, 200 people. There are 15 guys that goes to the school, another big village that is 5 kilometers every day, etc. No, the bathrooms and one site previous to entry, another time to the exterior, and go in this promenade to visit the stones as an exhibition site where you explain the history of these stones. Okay, and from the exterior, of this platform, you can enter another platforms, different levels. This is the same level. This is another level. You discover from this balcony the site where they discover the stones. You return in this cul-de-sac the view to the church of the village. And in this part, you can go from these ramps to entry to the equipment. No? Here we think in one shadow for the afternoon, vegetal shadow, the zenithal light that entry in the exhibition room, etc. We maintain this orchard. The stones of the other orchid we reuse as a public furnitures, and the 2 ancient trees we maintain as a shadows in this point, and this one as what you see in the scenario of the polyvalent room. Okay. And in the park, the one park here, we propose to the mayor that the farmer of the neighbor, no, the farmer that is the neighbor, enter in this part and put the wet. They maintain the wet, and you have one field of wet, and they maintain and they have the contains of this field, no, every year, no. And we enter the territory to the public construction. For the limits, we work with the human scale, and we built one limit of 1.90 meters higher. The shadow, the ancient rocks of the ancient orchard, and at the end we work with a lot with the sections, because the plant is so rigid, because it's not possible to move with the scale and the neighbors, the national road, etc. But the section is so dynamic, and then you can break this element in the site, as you see in these different sections, working with the void and the builded part. Transversal section, the same. Here is crossing the air completely, is the orchard and the neighbor, crossing the channel, the first channel, thermal inertia and the exhibitions part, and here the room of the wine and the installations part with this caldera de biomassa, with the pellets entering this part, and here we build this inclinated plane where we put caducifolian leaves that goes to this shadow, no? This is the structure of this pergola, but at the end we are interested in the design of the shadow, vegetal shadow, and here we put 5 rear bars of 6 meters. Here you have 1 meter, 1.5 meters, and here 4.5, 5 meters. And with the gravity force, you have the natural geometry, and after the climbing vegetal make the final form of the shadow. Okay. After I explain how we work in this limit with this material, this is the inclinated plane. This is the vegetal material as a construction material. We work with Parthenophysus quinquefolia, that is one kind of climbing vegetation that works with zarcillos, is making this movement, and it works perfect with linear elements to make the mesh and build this grid. The shadow, the carpet. Here, maybe this condition of to work with the vegetation in the social housing in Salou, we work in vertical plane with the same plant. We built this element that refresh the mistral wind before, after to cross this forest that we plant with caducifolian trees. Refresh. Here we produce Venturi effect and vertical air, accelerated vertical air, and then when you open this window, you refresh all the social housing. Different apartments that has one plant that every people can transform how they need, okay? And after we see how maybe in 10 minutes, you see how they transform the external parts in this 80 social housing, okay? We return zero, the carpet, the public space. You enter in one room in this carpet, the same system that we use with another materials in La Pedrera, in one action installation that we do 12 years ago, working only with paper, 40,000 paper that after we recyclate to do an action that as a denuncia of the how industrial society works with the excedent. The vertical element we work with a fisherman's grid. We return to zero. They work normally for the package of wet with these industrial structures. Like they put these elements in the interior that has analogies geographically and as an element, as an architectonical element, that something like this. No, we work with these concepts for to build that design and build the chamber, but here we need to walk from the roof, not than the other elements, but the idea of zocalo, the structural elements, etc., is the similar architectonical movements. We don't need a door here. We need one hole. The door is in the pillar of the other side for the security, but we want this hole. The spiral of the beginning of the construction of this double spiral. The spiral, we work with this element in the Climate Museum in Lleida, but in another scale. In this case, is 60 per 60 meters. In Seró is 15 per 50. The square, the principal heart of the Climate Museum is 30 per 30 meters, where we work with this structural element here in the top that is the support of the future pergola of 22 glycinias plants that grows to 7 meters halves in the top, and after for the gravity force arrives 4 meters, and you have 2 meters and halves of vegetal material here from these holes. Now we're climbing, and temporary during these first years we work with agricola tissue with water nebulization here acting, no? And we work with this plane of shadow in summer, and in winter disappears. It's a cheapest system, and during the time is building these 22 glycinias that at the end you have this thermal element that works with the temperature, and you entry in this space to the Climate Museum. That is a museum that you read from the skin, not from the eyes, no, as a principal sensor. Okay. We activate the space after the crisis because it's a space that stops the first phase in 2011, and in 2015 I proposed to the mayor to occupy the space and activate the steps of the museum. At the end, in the moment, is this element. In this moment, I prefer don't finish the museum, because at the end, 10 years after, the competition is 2008, people, mayor, and all the promoters understands that at the end, the Climate Museum is the Earth planet, not one building, okay? The bathrooms without mirrors, you see the pergola system, you enter in the future with one garden with these climbing plants and thermal space, one space for the men's, women's, but mixed area, the adult people, the children's, the other. We recycle the structural elements that we don't use finishing the building, etc., etc. Okay. The day of the inauguration in 2017, and by night is cinema of summer. Here is the day of the inauguration. We work with the structural elements to design these lights. And in the future, if we finish maximum, we arrive to this moment with a lot of porosity, with glycinias, with this plant that maybe the rainwater can activate this humidity, but if you don't need to activate the nebulization, appears the autumn, the winter, and you understand this clock, this process of the 4 moments in the Climate Museum. We return to the spiral in Seró. We activate the chamber, the fog in Lérida, a temporary situation without horizon, but in hours you can have this defined horizon of the Pre-Pyrenees. These two conditions is normally, and winter and autumn. At the end, the zenithal lights with this primitive system. We use the brick, half brick, to enter the air and eliminate the condensation of the glass. The spiral, the different frames of this onion, no? And the piece that we use, that we conceptually, as an object we reuse, that is the element that you normally in the stores you use for the bottles of wine, that it has the ideal condition of porosity for us, for the transparency and tangential opaque vision, and how the air entry and as an interesting relation between the void and the opaque or solid condition. For this, we elect this piece. And this is the density that we are interested. We are very interested with the ceramic for this porosity condition, not for the textures. Okay, the actual last 5 years, there's a word that people use a lot of that I don't like, that is textura, no? Design with the textura. No? For me, at the end, is a visual form to work with the textura. We are interested with the condition of inhabitability, and this case is the porosity. Like in Weiler housing in 201, 204, we use this porosity with this lintel, prefabricated lintels, as another object trouvé that reuse as a support of this crass vegetation, you know, that people can reuse, rebuild, and replant in this condition limit between the pedestrian urban street, the pedestrian community street, terrace, interior, terrace of the neighbor, privacy, community, etc. No? The work of this limit that is not only one line. Okay. With the time, the people occupy this urban beach, you know, and make the life in community, in this little village into the village. We return in this channel, but in this case, we return to zero. How we built these tunnels, and we wait the moment where entry the stones for decide how work with the light, because during the 3, 4, 5 years process, I don't want to entry in this chamber another matter than the stones, no? And I think different systems for compress the light and activate with white color, etc., like in Roman Owens, the light, no? At the end, I work a model in 1:1 scale here, and decide to put the plane of the light to 250 meters, not 370 that you have from here to here. I put one plane here with a new elements that entry in the chamber with distance in a dialogue with 5,000 years ago stone elements, and at the end activate the light, and the real protagonist of this all this program is to read very good the drawings of the stones, no? And then at the end entry these pieces painted in white for activate better the light, and to read very good every one of these 8 elements. We go to the chamber of wine. Here work with the same piece but in vertical position because it's the smallest element, and to entry in vertical dimension of the body. In this case, we need to activate the circulation in horizontal. Here, we need to stay an entry in this unique room. And another condition is that here, the climate, here the same is exterior and interior. You have different frames and have minimum difference. But here you have interior and exterior in continental climate. And then put plaster in the joints and here in the joints, and then work the limit with this intermediate element that is the same bottles that they use for the wine, white wine. Okay. We designed this prototype. We try with different bottles, but at the end we know that work with transparent bottle. This is the foam that normally the installations use in architecture of 10 centimeters. That is the intermediate material between ceramic and glass. And then put the bottle in this position, floating between the ceramic, entry the light in the interior from where normally goes the wine. This is winter position with the corks, okay, and you use as a thermal element the air chamber of every one of the bottles, 1,800 bottles, and this is summer position without cork, but only the cork in a series of 1, 2, 3 as a black points that you recognize easy in this element, 1, 2, 3, and this 1, 2, and 3, and this indicate in summer the bottles that it has an silicone in this part, and then you can take as little windows and provoke the cross ventilation working with the thermal inertia of this building that under the earth, no? And refresh as a natural system the site where you taste the wines. The bottle, we entry 5 centimeters to the interior with this element, and every one of these 10 centimeters holes works as a brise-soleil for the vertical sun, and you don't have the sun in the bottle, but in winter with the horizontal sun you have the hot temperature that you need in the interior, okay? In 1998 to tal, we work this condition of interior-exterior with a rigid element in this polycarbonate warehouse from Eurofred, but we work 45 centimeters of two frames of polycarbonate with one chamber of 45, working the air. This is plastic but has porosity. I work only 2 times with plastic, this in 1998, after I do Roman Owens, and I prefer to continue researching with the pre-mat materials. But now, 2 years ago in Venice, I work with polyethylene as another object trouvé with plastic that use normally the people that paint the buildings and protect the furniture with this plastic that is a thin plastic that has the quality that is so cheapest because 6x4 is every frame, and you have 3 in one pack that is €3 cost. Here are 30 frames from 4 to 6, and the cost is €30 of all this cloud. But we work in the 6x6x6 Arsenale space, offering to the people 36 square meters of space. It's an empty space as architecture. With this action that is the analogy with the pergola of Climate Museum, that you entry in the space, in this utero, no? In this space that is in human scale, and that during 6 months is activated as a natural element because read the micro air and read the changes of temperature. When the people entry, the hot of the body makes that this plastic entry in levitation, okay? Then this space and this matter read the activity of the biennale, and we offer this experience. And then we have analogy contains in the perimeter that you can elect what you want to read or not, depends the distance, depends the detail of the information. Here's the Climate Museum, and here's different projects of the studio that entry in relation with the Climate Museum cross the inhabitability conditions, okay? The material is this in Zero. We clean very good with water and with these elements, and we offer at the end this matter and this atmosphere. In the roof, we activate the porosity of the brick with natural earth for the natural vegetation that appears. At the end, all this matter that entry in harmony, and we reuse elements like this in this place, in this little ramp before the chamber. We reuse this bench that this woman abandoned when arrived these city benches with a back element, and we transport in the entry of the new site and put these ropes. the same system that we used 20 years ago or 80 years ago, recycling these ropes in Cadaqués from this installation that we do one time a year in Cadaqués, an installation that talks about the tradition of the skipping stones, but as a public space, we put 10 lines, the horizon as a reference, this grid in this topography that normally is in movement, but we do in the calms of January. 10 people make the skipping stones. It's a plastic element in this condition, but in this moment, 20, 21, 22 years ago, 23, I think that I designed in 1995, I decided to register this action with a time condition, no? And superimpose a pentagram that is not in the sea, is in the grid. When you read the two spatial conditions, that is the distance that people through the stone, and after the jumps that they do. And then there are 8 divisions to the horizon, that is 8 notes, is the tone, the point where you put, no? Distance 25 is 1 sol, 5 is do, 10 is re, and the time is the number of jumps. White, black and point, etc., etc. And then these two spatial datums transforms in 1 or 2 registers, acoustic registers, that after the party every year interpretates in the beach. After 20 years, we have 960 people that do all this new topography of time and energy, that is all these names. The analogy with Salou maybe is that we design one support for the human activity with one conditions that we offer, and after the people interpretate these conditions in inhabitability term. No? Return 0, yeah, finishing this new pentagram with these width fields that we built with the rear bars as a limit that put in scale the human body, 190. The elasticity, we worked first time in these steps in Can Minguell warehouse, where I discovered that 5 meters of rear bar of 20 millimeters is elastic. And then here begin to think about elasticity in rear bars and Cantaco, Zero, etc. And work different forms and programs with this material that I use for the construction condition. That is, it doesn't have pathology because has auto-passivation. Is if you put this kind of steel that is the best steel that arrives from Medievo, that it doesn't have aleaciones. After oxidation, and if the porous is opened, begins a process of auto-passivation, and it protects. The first months you have mancha, no? Color around, and you can manchar, I don't know the word in English, but after 3, 4, 5 months, this process is finished and it maintains eternal without maintain. For this, I use this material. After is the exercise that explain to the people that use this material in different programs that one material that 20 years ago normally people don't see because it's under the concrete and people don't see, that maybe if they relax their prejudice, aesthetic prejudice, can live with this material. How you can obtain this? Working with the other sense. Maybe in the Pergola of Barcino, people in a conservador ambient, no, a tennis club, people arrive this space, relax, because the temperature is good, in this vegetal shadow, they drink a beer, seeing sport, or in the swimming pool, and the visual duties is not the principal. Like they are maybe in summer in Ibiza and are in place, more relaxed, and they see this material and don't have anything. At the end, I worked during 22 years with this material, and in every program, you have analogies with conditions of inhabitability, but at the end, only need to, in positive term, fight with the aesthetic prejudice of contemporary society. In this moment, I think that this material, it works, more teams, more people, and is accepted in the contemporary society. But the principal, and this for the students is very important, the principal decision for to use this material is the material condition, the non-pathology, non-constructive pathology, okay? Not the texture, not the, etc. Lerida pergola, Tarraco, and more complexity. The ramp of Ceró, the pavement of the ramp, built in the warehouse, and combining the artisanal, industrial, prototype, prefabricate, working in the site, etc., etc. The reference in this case, the Agricola men use their 10 millimeters rear bar for to fix the first lines of wet, the package of wet, and with 20 centimeters they work the elastic limit for to contain the other lines of package of wet. And with the same material we work in Ceró. Okay, the cross section. The first visit of people of the Colegio Arquitectos of Lérida, the ancient orchard and the ancient species appears, winter condition with the trees, the promenade where you enter for the square, the tangential walls, but the Pre-Pyrenees that cross this human scale and put in scale with the horizon, the different doors appear, and you discover the exterior and the interior parts. Return the view to the church, discover the village, the ancient tree, 3 points of water, in summer you need, the warehouses, the furniture for to sit, winter condition, summer condition, the shadow, and you sit here, etc., the bench, the chamber of wine. The pavement of all the building is this piece turned as a pavement. You normally use, and as an evolution of this element, the last line for to do more monolithic the perimeter with zuncho. No? You turn this element, put here, put sand and plaster, and here the beams, and here you use this ceramic piece, turn it to, and fabricate this carpet that is in the same geometry than the roof. Okay, the beams, the tiles, the same piece, turn it here. Okay. Different programs in the polyvalent site, workshops, expositions. Here is this screen that you explain the video of the archaeological site or see soccer, Barça, TV Gol, etc. Or by night, the ramp and this festive light fabricates this carpa, and people of the village, sometimes they do celebrations of the community of this village. The exhibition site, where is the history of the stones, and open this door and entry in this temporary channel that you begin with the same pavement, okay, after the brick break it as a big stones, more micro stones. You see that begins 15 centimeters and every time is more higher because it's this 1%, 1.5 that you are doing, but you don't know that you're going down. And at the end appears the silence, the horizontal plane, and the zenithal light in the drawings. You stay the time that you want, and after in the opposite diagonal, in the other sense, you do the same process and you go down, 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 and at the end you have one floor, no? You have 220, 230, and at the end the wet fields receive you to understand these topographies in time, to understand that the time builds and not destroy in the process of inhabitability. Thank you.